We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully your day's going well. It is Thursday. Thursday means it's Old Soul Day, and Old Soul is here. Where are you now? You're not at home because you've got that backdrop.
Yeah, still in PA. I don't
PA.
really, yeah, I don't know my way around here as like to know like streets and all that stuff, but I do know it's Bakerstown, I want to say.
Okay. So what are you
Yeah.
doing in PA now? What do you do?
And
You've been here for a while.
and
What are you doing?
um, well, just basically like canvassing, door knocking,
Okay.
all that kind of stuff. They have the campaign, they have a bus that is going to bring people from, I want to say New Jersey here. So it's like this nice little like bus that they go to New Jersey, get people who want to volunteer and bring them here. It's not really so much for like the campaign, but it's just like, telling people the importance of the down ballot races because that's what's really going to make a difference. You can vote for Kamala, but splitting your ticket is not going to help the situation or improve
Right.
anything.
Right.
So that's the message that we're trying to spread right now, and it's really cool because the campaign is like, what do you guys need? You guys need buses. You guys need this. You guys need that, just to make sure that the people on the down ballots feel supported, and that's pretty much like everywhere.
Are they
And
are
I
they
have to say
coming?
this,
Are they coming to
this
your
is like
hotel too?
no, so the people from like New Jersey, they come in through their bus and then they go back to New Jersey.
How about
We
you?
just come. Oh yeah, yeah. They give us transportations either. We've been getting. I don't know what you call it. I would say like a party bus, but without all the poles and stuff in it. And
Okay.
then they just take you wherever you need to be, and that's it. When I was sending you those text messages the other day, and I was like sending you the information, I thought you was asking me one question, but it was something completely different. But if you can look on there, some of our locations have to be private, just to um, keep the MAGA people around from threatening us and all of that other kind of stuff.
Well, I know somebody in Pennsylvania was talking about the prospect of meeting you, and again, it's touchy in the first place just to meet somebody off the internet that you don't know. And I'm not saying this person was dangerous because they weren't. I knew them pretty well.
No, I
I know
mean
them very
you.
well. But at the same time, you got to kind of keep quiet as to where you are, and you don't want to reveal that so that it might put you in danger. Under normal circumstances, in a normal campaign, that would not be an issue. But in this campaign, it's an issue. And have you noticed anybody getting any kind of negative or threatening types of experiences while canvassing in Pennsylvania?
There are some people that get attitudes and they come across as wrong. We were at so like Monday and Tuesday. I don't know if you've seen, but it's like the Kamala Harris Reproductive Freedom Bus that they're touring around, and they were here on Monday and Tuesday, and Shapiro was there, and there was just like a few people like across that were like screaming and yelling and all of that crap. But then they kind of like fizzled themselves out. They didn't stay there that long. I don't know if maybe they were expecting like a big group of people, and when they realized it was just a handful, they was like screw it and left. But yeah, other than that, not really. Other people, they'll just kind of like, call you names and close the door. But that's like 1%. For the most part, people will like open the door, they'll talk to you, and then like 8 times out of 10, they vote for Kamala. And then you have those couple of people who was like, well, I don't really know, or they say they want to stay home. And, those are the people you really have to try to reach out to. But it is kind of fun though.
I saw a TikTok of Jane Fonda knocking on doors and
Yeah,
canvassing. Is she in Pennsylvania too?
she was. I don't know where the bus is going to next, but she was on the bus. Shapiro was on the bus. There's these two women from I've had a podcast. They're kind of like they used to be more gossipy, but now they're like strictly politics. They were on the bus, and then the one that we saw at the DNC that was talking about being impregnated by her stepfather, she was on the bus. There's like other victims, like people who do speak out, they were on the bus as well. Just like, telling their stories, making sure people know that we have to be backing Kamala up when she goes to the White House. Like she needs support in the House and the Senate. So that's the messaging that we're trying to push right now.
I will tell you this. I've always liked Jane Fonda, from the old days, but she kind of messes with my head now.
Why?
She's over 80 years old, and I still go, she's looking pretty good. She's kind of hot. When did you ever think you'd have an 80-year-old woman going, she looks pretty good?
She is, well, you know what? She's just like the sweetest person. She's like, "Are you guys volunteers? Oh my God." She's like, want to give everybody a hug and talk to them. But then when she's like talking to people, she has like this serious side to her where she's like stressing the importance of it without putting like fear in people. And she really like can listen to people, grasp what they're saying, and then address those fears in like a calming type of way. Like, I don't know. She's just one of them people with that aura around them. Shapiro too. I didn't think he was like as cool as he is, but yeah.
Well,
So really,
Jane Fonda's been an activist for more than 50 years. Back in the Vietnam War era, she was Hanoi Jane. A lot of people hated her that supported the war, but she's done wonderfully well, and she's an admirable woman. Obviously, what you guys are doing in Pennsylvania is having some impact because the polling in Pennsylvania for Kamala Harris is improving considerably.
yeah, we're working on it. it's just, it's just, we're working on it. But for me, sometimes the frustration comes from like here they have like internal pollings and different data and stuff that, you know, that you just don't see publicly.
Right.
And it's just kind of like to be in a position to where we're like, we really have to push, we really have to fight. This is too close. Okay, we think she's going to win. However, we need to make sure the House, and like for it to be this close, it's so frustrating and disheartening at the same time.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating. I can't imagine why it's this close, even with internal polling. And that's what they look at because they have different data and stuff that we don't have access to.
I'm
It's
not
just,
I'm not a big fan of the polls. I don't trust the polls completely because I don't know the sampling they're taking and such. When you're knocking on doors and
mhm.
talking to people, just random people, do the people you talk to fall in line with what the polls are telling you, or do you see something different? I mean,
No,
is it 50-50? Is it 50-50 when you're knocking on doors?
no, they don't really fall in line. And then sometimes you really can tell that maybe they don't feel comfortable telling you exactly what it is that they're thinking because they may come to the door with a spouse or somebody else or a friend or whatever. Of like if they're outside hanging out and you approach them, there's other people there, so they may not feel comfortable telling you how they really feel or what they really do think. So in that instance, it's kind of hard to tell. But for the most part, it's like, I'm sick of Trump. He's no good. I'm going to vote for Kamala. However, I'm going to vote for a Republican for the House or the Senate type of thing because I like Republican policies. And you really do have to ask them, which Republican policy do you like? And 9 times out of 10 is BS.
Well, it is BS because they always say, I like his. When people tell me that they like Donald Trump's policies better than Kamala Harris, we say, what are those policies? And they never can tell me. What they're doing is they're hearing other people saying, I like their policies, and they're just parroting that. They don't really understand what the policies are because, frankly, the Republicans have no policies. They have
Mm-hmm.
zero policies. If they had policies, they might pass something now and again, but they don't. Yeah, I mean, you're having to educate people into what's true as opposed to what's fake. And if you listen to the media, it's probably good that you're in Pennsylvania because that seems like the pivot point in this election. I've heard people say this: if you don't win Pennsylvania, you won't win the presidency. I disagree with that because we're not considering the possibilities in Florida and Texas and Missouri and of those flipping. Because if they flipped, Pennsylvania would be less pivotal. Not to say it
Yeah.
wouldn't be important, but if everything goes as everybody expects, which it won't because we're in a total different time, but if that were the case, Pennsylvania is kind of the focal point at this point. And is that why so many people from Kamala's side are there?
Yeah, that's why they're here. The people from New Jersey, like, you know, they're all gun ho about it because what makes a difference to them is because they feel like, oh, you know, I'm in New Jersey, New York, like my vote doesn't matter or whatever. It helps them, like they really do feel good when they get to come to another state where they actually feel like they have an impact.
Right.
But with them too, I do have to tell them like focus on those local races. Don't just give up on the state entirely. Still focus on the people who are local to you because that is important. And then I do think what I'm starting to see with canvassing is some of the people here feel comfortable because they have reproductive freedoms and they, the states that they live in. And you just have to stress to them, yeah, you have that freedom now, but it could be gone away from you in a few months. So you really do have to make sure that you don't put someone in a position who's going to strip it away from everybody instead of just a few people. But even I have to like check myself not to say anything, because I really do want to tell these people that's very selfish to say, well, I'm good. So, you know what I mean? Like, you have to worry about other people too. I bite my tongue on saying that a lot.
Well,
I want to say it all the time.
that's why I wouldn't be good canvassing, because I'm not very good at biting my tongue and checking myself. I don't do either of those things particularly well. One thing that doesn't show up in the polling, that maybe doesn't get as much attention as it should, but I heard somebody talking about it today. Kamala Harris and this campaign has an impressive ground game, not only in Pennsylvania, but all across the country. The other
Mhm.
side of the coin, Donald Trump basically has zero ground game, and
Right.
that is a big factor in the upcoming election.
Well, yeah. What we have noticed, or what we've been discussing, is that the reason that he doesn't have as strong of a ground game, if you actually follow the money, all
Yeah,
of his money is like going towards attorneys,
right.
because he is putting his effort into challenging the election more than he is trying to win the election.
Yeah.
So it's like our attorneys are like on standby for the shenanigans. His attorneys are there to challenge the election, to challenge the votes. Right now, he's making a big issue about mail-in ballots when we haven't even mailed out ballots yet. But what he is saying is, I guess Louis DeJoy, that postmaster that he installed, he's horrible for the post office. The mail is slow. They don't feel confident that they could handle the, vote by mails. And he's saying that, but that's not true. What they're saying is, when you're handling the mail-in ballots, the letter carriers have to be trained. They have to have like a certain certificate or whatever that they went through this training. And they haven't been able to get them trained because of the workload. So
Right.
it's just a matter of realigning schedules and making sure those people get trained on how to handle those ballots. They're not saying that they can't do it. They're just saying, we need to make time to train these people. They're already working overtime. How do you get time to train them? But they're going to have to figure that out. But that's what they were saying. But he is saying the person that he installed to mess up the mail system during the last election, now he's complaining that that person has messed up the mail system.
Yeah.
It's just bonkers, the stuff that Donald Trump tries to get away with.
Well, it is. And when you look at Donald Trump, you do get that sense that he maybe deep down in his heart realizes he's in fucking trouble in this election, and he does seem to be focusing on setting up the complaints. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be rigged, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. One thing I don't think he's counting on, though, it's going to be a huge difference after this November election than it was after 2020. He's lost a
Yeah.
lot of credibility, he's lost a lot of support, and the kind of power in his voice that he had in 2020, he's not going to have that. After losing election after election, the Republicans are going to be done with him. They're going to be tired of, but from the boy crying wolf. It's going to become silly after the 2024 election. And he's not going to be even anywhere close to what happened in 2020.
Yeah, and there's something that they're not telling him, and I don't blame them for not telling him this, because he seems to lash out. But they're not telling him that all of these plans and attorneys and challenges that they're coming up with, that only matters if the election is really close and tight.
Right.
So if you're looking for, 8,000, or let's just say 11,000 votes, that's different than if the margin is 50, 60,000 votes. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like the larger the gap is, the harder it is to contest it. And I think that he is counting on it being a very tight race and then challenging that election. That is his plan. There's no ground game, none of that stuff. And then he just, I guess his main campaign is just racism, sexism, scaring the hell out of people. That's basically what he's campaigning on right now.
Yeah, and
Oh,
I think a lot of
sorry.
people with this dog eating dogs and cats thing, that
Yeah,
has started to become a bridge too far for even Republicans at this point because it's so absolutely silly. I mean, I tell people when you watch that debate and he brought it up there, that was because he was flailing. He was desperate. He had to grab something to fight back against Kamala because she was handing his ass to him, and he
yeah.
just blew that out. Kamala looked at him and laughed in his face. The moderators said, "That's not true." And he kept doubling down, and he's continuing to double down with J.D. Vance. That took its toll on Donald Trump. I think that got people to say, "Oh, now, come on, now that's fucking crazy."
Well, he announced today that he is going to Springfield and also Aurora. And I think he said 2 weeks. Now, I don't hang my hat on anything that Trump says, but this is what I kind of believe that he is going to do this because there's too many people shutting down this lie, and he has to stick to it. He has to like make it seem like this is really happening because he can't be proven wrong. So
Did did
that's why I think that he is going to go.
did,
But it's
did
just,
he say he was going to go there in 2 weeks?
yeah.
Yeah, he's not going. I promise you, he's not going. That's what he always says.
He said, but the thing is, like the National Guard comes in there. They do these. They have to like sweep the schools and different office buildings and stuff every single morning before the people can get in. It's just it's insane. And I was like writing a script, and then I was telling the person to include the Haitian videos in there. This is how tired I was. I sent you the videos. And so he's like, "Hey, where are those videos?" And I looked at my phone like, "Oh, I sent those to Boomer." But if you look at what these Haitians went through, you will understand why they were granted protective um, asylum here, or protective temporary protective asylum here. They were like pretty much in a war zone. These people
Right.
were like, even when they were like escaping, there was bullets flying over their head. They're like stepping over bodies trying to get out of that situation because the gangs were like literally taking over. They were
Right.
like taking women, taking children, killing women, killing children and men. Like they just up these people's lives were in danger. They asked to come and help rebuild this community. They actually do come and rebuild the community. And now they're going through this war zone I'm fearing for my life all over again. It's
Yeah.
like they just came from that.
Well,
And then they finally
this
settled
is
in, and here this comes.
this is
Ugh.
why Donald Trump is not going there. I mean, Donald Trump will say he's going there in order to substantiate what he claimed, which is a lie. But he'll never go there because then he's going to be confronted with his lie. And they don't like being confronted with his lie. And besides that, because it is kind of a war zone, you think they're going to let Donald Trump go in there? I don't think so. Whether they like Donald Trump or not, you got guns and bullets flying. If that's true, he's not going there. He won't ever go there. And that's what Donald Trump says. I got health care plan coming up in 2 weeks. I got an infrastructure. When they say 2 weeks, that's like saying fuck you. It's never coming. So I don't
Yeah,
think he'll show.
I don't think he that's a good point because I was like, he's gonna go because he doesn't want to be proven wrong. But at the same time, you make a good point. If he does go, that is proving him wrong when he knows
Right.
he's lying. So that's a good point. And he doesn't have the support of the people of that town because these people have been like going to Haitian businesses, making sure they're spending their money with them. They've been rallying behind them, trying to give them support. The last thing that you need is Donald Trump taking his butt to Springfield. And I feel so bad for them because in Haiti, I mean, them dodging bullets, just trying to get out of a war zone. And then for them to come to America and they really do see this as the land of opportunity and a way to start over. And then now you have the Klan, the Proud Boys marching in your streets, and your children can't go to school. And it's just like, I don't understand how they just don't feel any kind of empathy or sympathy for anybody. It's weird. And then they keep saying, we want legal immigrants. We want migrants to come here legally. We don't want the illegals. These people came here legally.
Yeah.
Their backgrounds were checked. They have their visas. They're working. They're paying their taxes. They are building up a community single-handedly. And it's like, you don't like them either. So you might as well just say it. We don't want legal migrants. We don't want illegal immigrants. We don't want anybody here. Just go ahead and say that. But they keep saying they're illegal and they're not.
Yeah. It's, and then you've got JD Vance and Donald Trump saying, you Democrats got to tamp down the violent rhetoric, which is absolute projection. The Democrats aren't throwing out violent rhetoric. They're saying this while they're causing this havoc, this chaos, this violence in just a sleepy little town, just minding their own fucking business. The only reason they have this problem is because Donald Trump is a dumb fuck and just spewed it out because he had nothing better to say.
Yeah, I, that gaslighting was like the main source of pissing me off the last few days. It's just the constant gaslighting, because they're saying that Democrats telling the truth about Donald Trump is putting a target on his back.
Right.
And this, like, he had, first of all, the second attempt was just some guy hiding in the bushes. He wasn't even really in that much danger. But they're saying that we're putting a target on Donald Trump's back. First of all, his DP called him America's Hitler. And if you look at his little crew, Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, all of them have said far worse things about Trump before they started kissing his butt. And then you want to talk about putting a target on somebody's back? Donald Trump leaked Obama's address. And there was a man caught going to assassinate Obama. There was a guy who got into a shootout with the FBI because he was posting threats, credible threats to Joe Biden. And he was going to go and assassinate him. They just caught him before he did. Kamala Harris had a pipe bomb sent to her because of the rhetoric that's coming from the right. And they're going to sit here and say that we are putting Trump's life at risk. GTF.
Yeah, you know what the interesting thing about this guy, that was found in the bushes at Trump's golf course had either an AR-15 or AK-47. And, for most of us that are normal and live in normal states, that would be crazy. That would be concerning. But here's what you have to understand. In Florida, residents do not have to have a permit to buy handguns, rifles, or shotguns. Additionally, there's no requirement to register a firearm, nor is there for owners to get a license or have a permit to carry rifle or shotgun. There is, however, a requirement for Floridians to carry a permit for a handgun. So the fact that some guy is walking around with an AR-15, they seem to support that. That shouldn't be unusual in Florida. Finding a guy in the bushes with an AR-15, yeah, it's Tuesday.
Right. And they are besides themselves if they think that his attorneys are not going to argue that in court. They're going to argue that in court. You can't prove anything. And then you know what else? They take opportunities in the worst situations and try to exploit it to benefit themselves. You have Don Jr. and Ron DeSantis saying that they took custody of him because they could not trust him with the FBI.
Right.
That's a whole ass lie. That man is in the custody of the FBI. Ron DeSantis doesn't have custody of that man. And they're saying the reason that Ron DeSantis took him into custody is because we would murder him so he wouldn't tell the truth. He's not in the custody of Ron DeSantis. He is on Fed charges. Ron DeSantis doesn't have jurisdiction. And to me, it's so sad that their supporters would believe that, like, oh, let me just at least check and see where he's at. Let's see what jurisdiction he's in. Let's see who has custody of him. They just take whatever these people say and just run with it. It's the biggest brain rot I have ever seen in my life. And I know Ron DeSantis is he's been out of the limelight for a little bit. So he just wants to step in there, right, get his name out there, try to get MAGA on his side again, which they will never be on his side again. It's just, why are you exploiting that? If you feel so bad for Donald Trump and his trauma and him almost being assassinated, then why are you sitting here trying to benefit off of that poor situation? These people are sick.
I tell you what, if you were worried about a suspect being murdered, Ron should have arrested P. Diddy down in Miami before he flew back to New York, because P. Diddy's got bigger problems and bigger risks coming up than this guy.
Oh yeah,
Before
yeah.
we'll talk about P. Diddy later. It's kind of out of the realm, but I'm interested in your perspective on it. But and it kind of ties into some of the other stuff we're talking about. Yesterday or today, you sent me a text that I'm going to have to try to calm down because I'm pissed off right now. I try to be better by the time I come on the show. And I said, no, girl, bring that fucking smoke. We want to see Old Soul pissed off. I tell people that. I said, she comes off as a sweet angel, but she's got emotions too. She can be really sad, and she can be to the point where you just don't want to fuck with her because she'll tear into your shit. But there's some things pissing you off that are going on and making you angry, and that's saying something when we're talking about Old Soul. Why don't you expand on that?
Okay, I wrote down in my journal, that I'm going through these three different eras, right? My MLK era, my Malcolm X era, and my Black Panther era, right? And I've been feeling like so Black Pantherist the last few days. Like I just like I don't have time for it. When I was feeling a little bit more calm, and then I saw the hearing with Kennedy and how he talked to that woman and then told her that she should put her head in a bag. It's just they don't even try and hide the racism anymore. It's
Yeah.
just like when that mask falls off, it makes a thud. And it's just like, I can't believe he sat there and he said that. Not only did he sit there and say that, but not one single Republican checked him on that.
No,
Not, they didn't say that was out of line. Okay, ma'am, go ahead and say what it is that you want to say. They allow it's like there's no checks and balances with them. They just all run amok. I don't know, like Kennedy, is that a person that you're supposed to be afraid of? You can't check him for his racism on full display in front of the world. I just I
Ken-
can't with these people. I cannot.
Kennedy is a phony and a Trump humper, and he was basically baiting this woman and saying, and she's with an organization for Israel, and she said, "You support Hamas, don't you?" Of course she doesn't, but he's trying to bait her. "You support Hezbollah, don't you?" If I was in that situation, I would say no to both counts. But since we're
Mhm.
asking, and you're a Trump supporter, can we assume that you support sexual assault and insurrection? Do you support that? I mean, if you support Donald Trump and you can ask me these stupid fucking questions, clearly you support that. Somebody's got to turn it around on these people because
Yeah.
their lives and their beliefs and the things they spew are so egregious. Until you slap them in the face, they won't stop. They'll continue doing what they're doing.
Yeah, they've taken these hearings from being informed, receiving information, giving information, stats, figures, solutions, problem solving, all of that. And they've made it into a sideshow because what they are trying to do is get a sound bite. That's it. So it's
Yeah.
just like, you can see how unauthentic it is. They're just putting on a show, an act. And then you hear reportings of some of these witnesses during these hearings say, behind the scenes, they were like pretty chill. They was like, cool. They were asking questions. But the moment the cameras turned on, they turned into these other people.
Right.
It's just like they just want a sound bite. They just want attention. They want something that they can put on their website and make it look good. And it's like some of this stuff is all for naught because this is the type of stuff that Fox News can't play. This is the type of stuff that you can't put on your website. It, I can't wrap my mind around that kind of racism and just being that horrible of a person. And it's just pissing me off because I really don't get it. I don't understand it at all. Why you could ask her hard questions without doing it like that.
Well, you can, but it's something I said before, a few months ago. You have to understand these people are drowning. They're drowning and they know they're not going to make it. And when that happens, they start flailing and they start reacting and they start getting crazy and panicking. And I told you, things are going to get crazier and uglier before they get better. And they won't get better till after the November election. They know they're losing. So they're going to say anything. They're going to take any risk. They're not going to think about what they're saying. They're going to grab at anything. Hence, Donald Trump talking about Haitians be eating pets. So you may want to pace yourself on this, old soul, because if you think it's bad now, it's going to get worse next week and the week after and the week after that. And people say, can't we shut them down? I mean, I got to believe that Donald Trump inciting people to violence in Ohio is against the law. I mean, you don't have to just incite people to attack the Capitol. You incite any kind of violence. That's a law that's broken. What will happen? I don't know. Maybe nothing happens until after the November election. But once the November election happens and we get a change in power, there's going to be a lot of shit raining down on a lot of people. There's going to be a cleanup crew that's going to go after these people that broke these laws and these norms and did these horrible things. So we may just have to ride this out until November or January even. And that's unfortunate, but get ready for that. So pace yourself on getting pissed off.
It's against the law for us, it feels like.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating to just watch it. Like, I know that in the end they won't get away with it, but
Yeah.
just watching it in real time, them
Right.
just doing whatever, like complete, just running amok everywhere. And
Yeah.
then I saw JD Vance, like I knew he was lying, but the fact that he investigated it before he told the lie is the part that pisses me off the most. He actually sent people there
Mm-hmm.
with the health district. They actually checked and they saw that this is the lowest, like when you say like disease, like any type of STDs, any type of like tuberculosis, HIV, anything, it's the lowest that it has been in 20 years in Springfield.
Yeah.
That Heather that was talking about her cat, she called the police and said her cat was missing and she thought the Haitians had took her cat or whatever.
That's where it all began.
By
Yeah.
the time Jay-Z's people got there, she told them, oh, yeah, my cat ran away at the end of August, but I found my cat a few days later in my basement.
Yeah.
Not only did she say that, but the heifer and her daughter went across the street and apologized to their neighbors for that.
Yeah.
After this happened, after JD knew this happened, he told the lie.
Yeah. He
He
sent
told
some.
it after the fact.
He sent somebody in there to find out if it was a true story. That person
Yes.
found out it was not true, came back, told JD Vance that it was not true, and JD Vance still doubled, tripled, and quadrupled down. That's
Yes.
that's a guy with no integrity, no credibility, and that's the kind of bitch ass human that is. And that's who you're voting for if you vote for Donald Trump, because Donald Trump's no better. He's doing the same thing.
You went to the health office and they told you this has been the lowest it's been in 20 years. And then you have the nerve to sit on television and say that HIV cases are rising in Springfield when you know that that's a lie.
Yeah.
To me, it's just like the grossest thing that you could do, because they really are trying to dehumanize these people. And then when you go back in history and you're saying words like savages, vermins, you know exactly what the intent is behind that. And then the crazy part about it is this lie has been debunked deep every which way from sundown to midnight. Like, it's been discredited. And you still have people going there, marching in this town. The reason that they're doing it is because it's not because they think it's true. It's because, oh, they gave me a reason to go down here and act a fool. And so that's what they're doing.
The positive thing about this, though, is this. The only people that believe it are the base, and the base were already going to vote for Donald Trump no matter what. The vast majority of people, the moderates, the independents, the Democrats, they're laughing at him. I mean, if it weren't so sad for those people in Springfield, it would be a joke. I mean, Kamala actually laughed in his face. So if they're hoping to get anything out of this or gain anything, it's not working. It's not getting them more votes. It's like these assassination attempts. People think that, well, Donald Trump's going to get sympathy for these assassination attempts. And I don't even know if the last one really was. But if you talk to people, the only people that take or consider these assassination attempts and maybe feel bad about it or worried about it are the base. You talk to anybody else who's an independent, moderate, or Democrat, they all say the same things. They say it was staged. Now, I don't know if it was staged, but if everybody thinks it's staged, it doesn't matter if it's staged. If that's their feeling for him, they aren't feeling sorry for Donald Trump, and he ain't getting a vote if they think it's staged.
Yeah, because I think that because of the timing of it, that was
Mhm.
like right in the heat of JD Vance being called out and Dana Bash when he admitted that he made the story up.
I just
So a
made that
lot of
shit
people
up.
just, yeah, they're like, oh, you know what? That's just such a coincidence that all of a sudden Trump almost got assassinated again. So the timing was just completely off for that.
Yeah.
I honestly like I'm not gonna speak up for Trump, but I have to say, if I was almost assassinated twice and didn't nobody care, that would hurt my feelings too. That part I understand why he's mad about it. Like, damn, y'all don't even care. But it's just nobody cares.
Well,
Nobody cares.
people always ask me, do you think it was set up? I don't know if it was set up, but there's something wrong in Donald Trump's behavior. I know how
Mm-hmm.
narcissists act. They are
Yeah.
fucking cowards. If it was something where they were getting shot at and they were worried about being assassinated, narcissists are coward. He'd be hiding under a bed right now. He would not be going out playing golf because they told him not to. He was in a spot he wasn't supposed to be. It wasn't on the schedule, but he's not worried about it. Donald Trump's not a brave man. So there's got to
Yeah.
be a reason why he's not worried. I'd be
What do you
worried.
what do you think about so when it comes to the Secret Service, once you are a former president, you get a certain level of a security detail.
Mhm.
In addition to that, like your spouses, and once your children hit 18, they don't get Secret Service detail anymore. You have to
Right.
pay for private security, right? And then Obama, like if he needed to go somewhere or do some events, he has his, his detail that we pay for,
Right.
but he has to actually pay for his own private security in addition to the Secret Service detail that he has, right?
Right.
Trump refuses to do that. And I heard Biden say the other day, this pissed me off, like, I'm calling on Congress to give resources and give him the extra protection that he needs. I just don't understand why they are not making him abide by the same rules as Clinton did, as Bush did, as Obama did. You want extra security? You need to get yourself extra security. I don't want to pay for Trump extra security. I don't want to pay for his ex-president's salary that he's getting right now. I don't want to pay for the security, the Secret Service that he has right now. Now we got to pay for more of that. Where are these resources going to come from since they're so worried about resources and overspending? Okay, so now this state over here, their children have to go hungry so Trump can get extra security. I don't like that either.
Well, and we heard the stories too when Mitt Romney was at odds with Donald Trump. I think I heard
Yeah,
a figure he was paying $5 million out of his pocket to get security. Mitt Romney, the most vanilla motherfucker in the country.
Kevin McCarthy too.
Yeah.
All of them got to pay for their own security. Why he doesn't have to pay for additional security? If you are not going to listen to Secret Service, they are telling you, dude, you live at a golf course. You don't live that far away from private residence. You're open. Like we can see your golf course from the freeway. Everybody knows what you're going to do. You don't even switch it up. Everybody knows where you're going to be. Obama used to golf on bases, military bases, because he didn't want to put himself and his Secret Service in harm's way. Donald Trump refuses to listen to Secret Service. He just doesn't want to do it. They've been telling him, hey, enough with the outdoor rallies. He's
Right.
still doing it.
Right.
So if he's not going to listen to Secret Service, why does he get more Secret Service to compensate for the fact that he don't want to listen to the detail that he already has? Pay for your own damn shit. Let
Well,
me stop.
I tell you what here though, there may be a reason to the madness. Um, JD Vance said that, or somebody said that the Democrats want Donald Trump dead.
No,
And
we don't.
no, I don't want him dead. I want him to go to November 5th, get his ass handed to him, and then suffer the consequences for all the misdeeds, illegalities, and corruption that he committed. I hope he lives a long and healthy life so that he can be accountable for each of those things. I don't want him to go down and be a martyr for a bunch of dumb fucks. I don't want to see that. So I'd
Mhm.
rather keep him alive if that's at risk. I just don't know how at risk he is. I mean, we found out who took the shots or was attempting to take the shots. It wasn't a Democrat. It was the Republicans. And given now that we see that the Republicans are volatile, if I was going to put extra security on somebody, it would be Kamala and Tim Walz, because those are the crazy fuckers that walk around with AR-14s, AR-15s, and they're probably not happy with Kamala right now. So um, I think we're going to find out after the election. We're going to find out a lot of shit after the election that we had no idea, which is crazy because we think we know everything and it's horrible. But I think we're going to find some things out about those assassination attempts um,
Yeah.
that aren't completely on the up and up. I'm not saying they were staged, but there are some weird things about it that are unexplainable and they're unwilling to tell us. You wouldn't think that they'd be unwilling to tell us if there wasn't any problems with it and they didn't know anything about it. It's just very weird. There's going to be a lot coming out on Donald Trump, and believe it or not, it'll be shit we never fucking imagined, and that's hard to say with all we do know now.
Yeah, you know what? When you said that you don't want him to turn into a martyr,
Hmm.
I actually get that part, because this is a cult. And it made me think of because I just watched a documentary on them not too long ago. It makes me think about, remember the Branch Davidians? Those were the ones who followed David Koresh. I don't know if you remember that cult, but they kind of said
Yeah,
that, yeah, that David Koresh, right?
yeah,
So you would think that after that, that the Branch Davidians would be no more, but that cult is still around to this day.
right,
And even though he died in a fire with, his other followers, the reason that they are still around today and practicing is because he did die in that fire.
right.
And so they are looking at it as the government did try to kill them and succeeded in killing him. So I guess we can't give Trump that out to be, a martyr for them. If
We
there's any political party that doesn't want Donald Trump around right now, it's the Republican Party. They
absolutely,
say it all
absolutely.
the time. I just heard Alex Jones saying, "Oh, they're going to try to poison him." It's been numerous times where I've heard Tucker Carlson say, "Are you worried that they're going to kill you?" They want him dead because he is, when you think about it, he's worth more dead than alive to them right now,
Right.
because they will be able to play that martyrdom card, and they will be able to prop him up as some type of hero for freedom or whatever it is. So I guess keeping him alive does take that away from them. But if anybody was wanting him to be erased from this planet, I honestly think it would be the Republican Party. It's not us. I'm pretty sure it's them that would
Yeah,
want that.
I mean, many of us would wish ill to him. If he was to die prior to the election, I would hope that he falls on a Big Mac wrapper and shits himself to death, because I want him to do this in an embarrassing, not a big firestorm of excitement. Um, it, if anybody wants Donald Trump out, part of it is the martyrdom and part of it is the cult thing, but that wouldn't be the biggest concern I have. I think when we're talking about moderates and independents, especially in the Republican side, they see what's
Mhm.
happening now. How it took this long, I don't know. But Donald Trump is essentially burning down the Republican Party. They will not only lose in November, they will lose in 2028 and they will lose in 2032, because it's
Yeah.
going to take that long to build it back. These people, after Donald Trump is long dead and gone from old age or whatever, they're going to be handed a bag of shit, which was once the Republican Party, and he's the one taking them down. So you can bet there are people with money and with power in the political and the Republican Party trying to figure a way to get him out of the way before he takes it down even further than he has.
Yeah, and you know what? him doing that, it wouldn't be hard to find people to get on board with that, because look how many people in his party that he just screwed over.
Yeah,
You know, look how
everybody,
many people he's
everybody.
done. It's not us that he's hurting. We don't follow that food like that. So when you think about it like that, you're not short on people who would be willing to take on that challenge for him. I don't think that he is worth it alive right
No,
now when it
no,
comes to the Republican Party. So I mean,
no.
I guess that's something we can't give them if we got to spend a little extra tax money on him. I don't like it. I do think he should be treated like everybody else. You know,
Yeah.
Sasha and Malia, the Obamas are paying for their private security. It's just, I just don't like to see the amount that he is allowed to get away with. It's just enough is enough when it comes to that guy.
No, I tend to agree with you. I agree with you. I tell you what, old soul, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
You should watch.
We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Yeah, she keeps talking when we take the break and then comes back. So, um, and I don't, everything she says usually makes a lot of sense. So I don't try to quiet her down. But we are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. As you know, Old Soul is with us. And there was a topic you brought up before we started the show that I only know a little bit about. So, I'm interested to hear this story because I think it's very, very important. And you folks who listen to the show and know Old Soul know she has strong feelings about the reproductive rights of people, to the extent where people are women who are in states that need reproductive health care, and they are in states where abortion is illegal. She will take women in, they will stay with her, and she will help them through the process. She is an activist, and in that sense. And you said you're in your Black Panther mode, so maybe we'll just refer to you as Angela Davis henceforth. Um, you're going to need to do something with the hair though, because Angela had a big afro. Um, but but anyway, yeah, you were talking about a story about a woman named Amber, and maybe you can impart that story so all of us can kind of understand how what's going on there.
Yeah, I kind of let it slip. I don't know if it was the last podcast or maybe the podcast before that, when I was just saying in the red states, the maternal mortality rate has gone up since the overturning of Dobbs. For the white women, it's 24%, and then for Black women, it's 39%.
Wow.
And they track it from birth until 42 days after, because sometimes there can be things going on internally from birth that will cause for you to pass away, a little bit later.
Right.
But Amber Nicole Thurman, she had a 6-year-old. I want to say she was 28, and she was pregnant, and then she took the pill to get rid of it. And I can't remember. I don't know what happened, but somehow like not everything was gone, and so they needed to do a DNC to go in and just remove everything else. Typical procedure, happens thousands of times a day, if not more. But when she went to the hospital, because she's in Georgia, they wouldn't give her the DNC. So she goes back home, and then she started like coughing up blood, and she passed out. So then she goes back to the hospital. They actually checked her in the hospital. They didn't turn her away. They checked her into the hospital. And I said this before, and people just don't believe it, but this is a case where they can actually look at the records and see that what I said was true. They don't give you pain medication. It doesn't matter like if you're miscarrying or not. They don't give you pain medication because they're not allowed to, because your pain medication could negatively affect your non-viable pregnancy, basically.
Wow.
So 20 hours she was in the hospital. Her blood pressure dropped. She was bleeding out. And you got to keep in mind, there is no pain medication given to her at all. Her infection was spreading. The doctors knew her infection was spreading, and they were just basically sitting there watching her die until they could get word from administrators that it was okay to do the DNC. So
Wow.
she laid in the hospital bed with no pain medication at all for 20 hours.
Wow.
They finally get the okay to give her the DNC, but it was too late. She died.
Now this
That
was this the one in Georgia?
that was the first case that they came out and released. Now I let it slip out, the mortality rates that's going up in these states. I know what it's like to have women and girls not make it here. I know what it's like to have women and girls come here who have been miscarriaging 4 days. So they will get here and they're already on like day 4, day 5 of their miscarriage. I have to know what to look for before it's like, okay, I can bring them home and then they can go to their appointments, or I need to take them straight to the hospital.
Wow.
You have to look out for that type of stuff. But when you're in a red state, you're on your own. I'm actually surprised that they checked her in that they checked her in for those 20 hours, because normally that doesn't even happen. They look at it as like, there's nothing we can do for you. We need this bed for somebody else. So she had to have been in pretty bad shape for them to check her in the first place. The warning that I have for your listeners is to get ready, because the states, ever since they overturned Roe, they have like a database, and they've been tracking these deaths of these women. And there's like these databases with this, I forget the name of the committee, but that committee is keeping track of these deaths. And they've been tracking it ever since then. And so now they have like all the data, the stats, all of that stuff, right? And they're going to start releasing what's been happening to these women. If you think her story was bad, wait until you start hearing some of this other stuff that's been going on to
I mean,
these women in the States.
I mean, just
Just
the stories you've told us are pretty horrific.
yeah,
And you're saying there's more coming.
yeah, brace yourself for some of these stories that you're going to hear,
Might
because
that
it's like
might that release
people,
be the October surprise or one of them?
it possibly could be. I was surprised that they released a story. And then I was just thinking to myself, it's crazy. I asked my daughter, I was like, I wonder why they're just releasing this one. And she said, well, maybe they just kind of wanted to see what the reaction would be to it. I don't know why they're slowly releasing it. I don't know what the motive behind that would be, but just prepare yourself for some of the stuff that you are about to hear, that what these women have been going through in restrooms, in hospitals, in parking lots, and women being flown from one hospital to another state because that other state can actually treat them. But you don't hear anything about, okay, well, you need to go to the parking lot and we're going to have you airlifted to another hospital so that they can do what we're told that we can't do. And then, by the way, when you get that 20, 30,000 hospital bill or that flight bill, we can't cover that. We ain't got nothing to do with that. Your insurance ain't gonna cover it. Like stuff like that. And so it's like the trauma, and then you turn around and then you got to deal with the financial fallout from that as well. And this is how cool this is. I'm not at home. So normally I'm not at home. My daughter and my TT will bring someone in.
Mm-hmm.
There's a girl at my house right now. And she was actually, her parents was like, devout religious people. And they were going to keep this baby. You know why they decided to let her get the abortion?
Because he's interracial?
No, her rapist has visitation rights. So if she gives birth, her rapist will be allowed to visit that child.
Wow.
And then that was when the stepdad stepped in and said, yeah, enough is enough. We're not going to do this. We need to figure something else out. So that's the girl that's in my home right now. And I didn't even hear of anything like that before. And so I asked a couple of other women, and they were like, oh, yeah, we've heard stories like that too. This is the first time I've heard that. But apparently that's just what it is.
Well, and I think a lot of people, when they hear about the abortion issue and Roe v. Wade and all this stuff, the Republicans have made a point of trying to make it sound like women just need to close their legs, they're having sex, it turns into a pregnancy, and just for convenience sake, they have an abortion. But after the stories you tell about how women's lives are in jeopardy, their very health, If they don't die, there are sometimes effects that affect them for the rest of their lives. I mean, this
Yeah.
is incredibly damaging to a lot of women. And have you heard of anything as far as pushback from doctors? I mean, doctors sign something called the Hippocratic Oath, do no
Mhm.
harm. And in the situation with this Amber girl that you're talking to, they were forced to do harm to this child, this young woman, because they wouldn't take care of her. They couldn't because they were worried about, suffering legal consequences too. This is contradictory to the Hippocratic Oath that they sign and presumably how they feel. There's got to be starting to be a pushback or complaints from doctors, or are they just afraid for their licenses or their lives if they do?
Yeah, on her records list her death as preventable. Like it literally says that it was preventable. From what I've been seeing with the doctors in these states, is they just say screw it and they just leave. So what they're doing is they're going to other states. They're not staying. As far as pushback, not that I know of, other than the fact that they have to send medical records here. And they're really, really good at that. They don't disclose information as much. You hear politicians in some of these states, they've tried to subpoena doctors and medical records and all this other kind of stuff. So far, they haven't been able to penetrate that barrier, even though behind the scenes, they're working on legislation to where your insurance cannot pay for care in another state. You would have to file a claim for that. You know what I mean? So if you go to another state and get something done, then your insurance isn't going to cover it. You need to get your medical records from that other state and file a claim, and then they'll pay the bill at that point. So
Wow.
behind the scenes, that's what they're doing, because the way that women are dodging them right now is HIPAA, and they can't get that information. And their way around that is like, okay, yeah, if you want us to pay for that, then you're going to have to submit those claims so we know your business before we pay that bill. But once you send them the bill and you file that claim and they find out that you went to another state to get an abortion, that's the information that they need so that they can press charges. In addition
Oh,
to pressing charges for you, anybody that you went with, anybody who knew about it, all of those people are complicit. And so they open themselves up to being charged as well. So that's what they're doing behind the scenes on that. People just do not believe it. And I think the reason they don't believe it is because it doesn't, like, this is not America. Like, we would never have doctors sit there and watch a 28-year-old die over a 20-hour period, watching her blood pressure drop, watching her infection spread. And she's suffering for 20 hours because she don't have any pain
right.
medication. So they don't think that that's something that would happen in America. So that's why you see people making videos. I saw that video of that one guy who said, can somebody tell me about all these women who Kamala Harris said are bleeding out in parking lots? He made that video, and it was just woman after woman after woman after woman after woman sending him videos telling them what happened. You
Yeah,
know,
I was going to bring him up. His name is John McEntee. He is a
yeah.
director of the White House, whatever. He worked for
Mhm.
Donald Trump. He's even testified against Donald Trump because they called him in, I think, in the January 6th hearing. But this John
Yeah.
McEntee is like a 30s, early 40s guy. He is an absolute douchebag. And he does this TikTok where he's eating something, and he said exactly what you said. Uh, Kamala Harris talks about these women bleeding out in parking lots. Where are these women? Who are these women? And then it
Yeah.
worked against him because all these women now stitch what he's saying and say, "I'm one. This is what
Yeah.
happened to me." So this whole strategy that John McEntee is trying to do fucking blew up in his face because there is woman after woman using that, stitching that and telling
Yeah.
their story. And that's what needs to be done. People need to hear these stories. That's why we talk about it here on the podcast, because people aren't as informed as they should be about how um, horrible some of these women have been treated, and so, the women that have died unnecessarily with
Yeah.
doctors standing right there, they can't do it. And why can't they do it? It's not because they don't have the skills. It's not even about money. It's about
Yeah.
government officials stopping them. So you've got people in your local legislature or your governor dictating whether you live or die and whether you get the health care you need in an emergency moment. And that should be enough to scare some people.
Yeah. And it's like, don't tell me or these women about the exceptions, especially not the exception about the life of the mother.
Yeah.
Because when you look at what Amber Nicole just went through, seriously, how much more sick did she have to be before the doctors got permission to take care of her? She laid there and suffered for 20 hours. And they will say, even Donald Trump, JD Vance, all of these people, well, I'm for the exceptions. I believe rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe those exceptions.
No, you
But
don't.
those exceptions are not being practiced. Because if it was, and you have someone going through this, I mean, they live like the women that come here. They will tell them, come back when this happened. Come
Yeah.
back if you go to the restroom and you see this. Come back if you start to notice that your eyes start to turn yellow. Like they tell them what to look for. And it's just like, okay, when you are this close to death, come back and we can help you. So
Right.
I don't understand why they keep going around touting these exceptions, because it's just something that they put on paper. They do not put that in practice at all whatsoever. They are lying about the exceptions,
Think,
straight up lying. I know that.
think about this. Set aside women who are pregnant and need reproductive health care. If you're an old white man like me, 64 years of age, certainly some potential for physical problems or health problems that you want taken care of. It might be pain, it might be life threatening, it could be anything. You want the doctor to be able to do what they need to do. Are you okay with somebody like Jim Jordan or James Comer deciding what kind of health care you should or can get? I mean, that's the extent of it. Because I'm an old white man, what's happening to the women don't necessarily affect me directly. But I have young women in my life. I have a new daughter-in-law. I have a granddaughter. I have nieces. I have grandnieces. And every one of them is put at risk. Fortunately, they live in Minnesota, so it's not quite an issue. But it would
Yeah.
become an issue if a Republican gets to be president and they make it a national ban. So while we're safe in Minnesota now, we got to keep the Republicans out of there. Otherwise, even the safe states will no longer be safe.
Yeah, and I don't think that people realize like the long-term consequences of that. Because if you have a doctor saying, wait until you're this close to death before we can help you, in the meantime, when you're septic and you have an infection in your body that's just going out of control, your organs start to fail. There's different things that go on in your body, and you cannot heal from that. And I've actually had people say, like, gosh, the women, they'll stay with you for like a week or so. Yeah, they almost died. You can't just go to the hospital, get the help that you need, and get on a plane and go back home. It don't work like that. So they have to be here longer periods of time just to make sure that they are healthy enough to fly back home.
Yeah.
And it's like if you have to wait so long to get here, you're in pretty bad shape. So sometimes we're ahead and you can get like the early cases and everything is smooth. But other times you have women who have just waited so long, and they are like on the plane, not wanting to have a medical event on that plane. So they're just dealing with it until they get here. And it's insane to do that to them. And the crazy part about it is a lot of times they're by themselves. They don't have
Yeah.
anybody there with them. They're just trying, okay, I know if I get here, I'll be okay. And then if you think about like your daughter, your granddaughter, like just think about those women. If they were like assaulted and they got pregnant, think about Jim Jordan or Donald Trump saying that the rapist has visitation rights. Like I just heard that for the first time, and that blew my
That's
mind.
fucking crazy.
And then about, okay, well, maybe she could have the baby and give the baby up for adoption. What if her rapist is a real a-hole and they're not going to sign off on adoption papers? What if they just say, yeah, I don't really want her to be, raised by somebody else. How about I take custody? That type of stuff. It's just sick to think about that.
I
But
got
for
to
whatever reason, people do not believe it. They don't think it's that bad.
I got to tell you, if a situation like that happened to a female in my life, and they were talking about visitation rights. I'd say, come into my house. Come on in my
Yeah.
house. And what may happen, if I'm in Florida where I have a stand your ground law, motherfucker broke in my house. So I had to do what I had to do. It is terribly frustrating, and it may not be something that everybody worries about at the same level. But if you have any young women in your life, and you're old like me, I don't want that to be an issue after I'm dead and gone. That needs to be rectified. It needs to be done right away. Too many people are dying from it. Let me ask you this. You're out canvassing in Pennsylvania. I've said
Mhm.
all along that I think the biggest issue in this election is overturning Roe v. Wade, reproductive health care. Do you get that sense when you're out talking to people? Is that the
Oh,
one thing that they focus on?
oh yeah, they focus on that, and you have to let them know. So they will say stuff like they don't trust Donald Trump when he says that he will not sign
Oh
a
no.
national ban. They don't trust him because he hasn't even said that he would veto that bill if it came across his desk. JD said it, and then Donald Trump was basically like, he don't speak for me, right? So
Yeah.
they understand that Donald Trump is lying about the national abortion ban. So they would vote for Kamala because they know that she would never sign something like that and that she would veto it. The thing that you have to do with some of these Republicans is, and independents too, is let them know that, yeah, that's true. However, if you want Roe reinstated, you have to vote for Democrats down the ballot. And there's something that somebody said to me today, like, I wouldn't mind voting down ballot, but I don't think that one party should have full control of the government. We need a checks and a balance there. And I get that. And I did tell her, I completely understand that. However, if you have one party who really is trying to protect women, protect the people, and make your lives better versus another party who is doing the complete opposite of that, like, you have to make a majority Democrats so that they learn their lesson. Because if they barely lose, or if they are like 50-50, like they are right now in the Senate, that doesn't teach them anything. That tells them that their policies, their actions, and their cruelty is okay. You have to vote and let them know that that's not okay.
Well, the
But
important the important
they don't like him. It's just trying to get the down ballot stuff
well,
as a priority.
the important thing to remember is if we get the House and the Senate, but Donald Trump is the president, when it comes to codifying Roe v. Wade, which should be one of the first things they do, Donald Trump
Yeah.
will never sign that. It will never
Mm-mm.
get codified if Donald Trump is the president. Conversely, if you let the Republicans run roughshod in the Congress, you're going to never get it codified. So whether
Yeah.
you like the down ballot stuff or whether you're worried about the checks and balances, the main thing is we get this abortion issue cleared up, we get it codified. And unless we have the Senate and the House and the presidency, it will never get done. And then we'll have to relive this fucking nightmare at some point down the line. They want to have the checks and balances. And under normal circumstances, that makes sense. But what they have to understand is we're not in normal circumstances. We've never
Right.
seen anything like this in history. The only way you can look at Republicans is fucking cancer. And the only way you get rid of cancer is you cut it completely out. Now,
Yeah.
after it's cut out, then we can let the Republicans, as long as they're reasonable, come back and rebuild and reform and come against the Democrats. And we get those checks and balances. But the
Mm-hmm.
problem is the Republicans haven't had those checks and balances. So don't tell me
Right.
you want to give them that option if they have not had them up to this point. I understand their point, but they're thinking in an old world. This is a fucking new world.
Mm-hmm. It's not done like that anymore.
No,
I think that was part of, as much as I love Joe Biden, I do think that was part of the problem, being so old school with it.
I agree.
Um, that it was to a point where it enabled Republicans because they thought that, we're just a bunch of snowflakes. We're really not going to do anything. I had really noticed that when I saw Byron Donalds on Fox News after Trump's second assassination attempt or whatever that crap was. And I think it was Laura Ingraham. She said, do you think Kamala Harris' statement denouncing violence went far enough? And he said, no, it didn't. Because if she really meant that, then she would pull her ads saying blah, blah, blah. He wanted her to pull all of her ads like Joe Biden did. And I said, oh, yeah, they really want to run against Joe Biden because they know he's old school. And out of all people, Byron Donalds, a Black man raised with Black women, why he thought that she would just let that fly, I have no idea. Why is she pulling her ads? Biden did that. Kamala is not the same as Biden. She's not going to do that. He is a fascist. He is lying. He is a threat to democracy. He is dangerous. So you can't shame her into calling that out, just like they can't shame us into calling that out. And I do think that they are comfortable thinking that we're not going to act and we're not going to do anything. But that's before. Now you have women's lives on the line. We're not going to just sit on the sidewalk and just watch you do this crap. And it's like we have to speak up for women. We have to speak up for girls. We have to speak up for rights. I don't know why I understand why they don't think that we're going to do that. If that's because how we used to be. And I think we're doing a better job of adjusting to a new way of doing it. Like we're adjusting to dealing with MAGA. And when you are dealing with MAGA, I mean, when they throw mud, you have to throw mud back, but you also have to be smart enough to make sure that you got some rocks wrapped up in the middle of that mud when you throw it, because it has to hurt when it hit them.
Well, the thing about it is if you're looking at this as a typical election, you're making a mistake, because this is no longer just an election. This is, for all intents and purposes, a war, because the stakes are higher than, okay, the Republicans win, or okay, the Democrats win. This isn't about Republican and Democrats. This is about democracy. This is about the safety and lives of human beings. These are people that want to hurt other people. And don't tell me that's not true. Just look at Springfield, Ohio. They're trying to hurt people that are completely innocent.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a time to be fair. This is not a time to be weak. This is not a time to be old school, because, as I say, we're in a different world. It's one thing being nice and being fair and all that stuff, but this is not the time to do it. My dad only told me one good bit of advice in my entire life. And he acted like a tough guy, and he was a wuss anyway. But he told me, he says, if you're in a street fight and there's a stick laying next to you, pick that fucker up and use it, because they will use it on you. And and there is some truth to that. If you're going to fight dirty, if I intend to win, I may have to fight dirty too, or at least aggressive. And you know, the Democrats have been so wimpy about going up against the Republicans. Now they're astonished that they're getting people fighting back against them. And now they're saying, I'm the victim, it's not fair. Well, fuck you. Better get ready, because it's just begun as far as the fighting back. And it's going to get tougher for every one of those Republican motherfuckers between now and November 5th. And then when you're on the run and tripping and falling, we're going to make sure you're put down for good, because you are a danger if you're even moving.
Yeah, I don't think they understand. Like something my grandmother used to say was, give me a reason. Like, just give me a reason. And I think right now, Democrats, we have not just a reason, we have reasons. Like, we have a reason to fight, because women and girls are so sick, they are dying. Some of these complications that they have, they're stuck with that for life. Once your organs start to shut down, there's no bouncing back from that. That's like a lifetime illness that's going to affect you for the rest of your life. Right. So we want to prevent that from happening to other girls and women. So we have a reason to fight. When you look at the attacks that they're doing on the LGBTQ community, especially the trans community, we have to fight for them, because they're only like less than 1% of the population. We can't just sit there and let them be bullied and treated any old kind of way because you are insecure. That's crazy. So we have a reason to fight. And when you have a reason to fight, they will be surprised at how hard we're willing to go for it. Yeah. They're used to being able to just do whatever the heck they want. And I really do think that is frustrating them, that they are getting people that's willing to fight back.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, you know, when we came into this campaign, you were like a lot of folks going, well, I'm not sure. It's very close. I don't know. I'm wondering how
Yeah.
you're feeling now because, I've said all along that I think not only would Joe Biden have won, I know Kamala Harris will win, and I think she will win decisively. Oh, but the polls. Fuck the polls. Look at the fundraising. Look at the registrations by way of Taylor Swift and Billie Eilish. Look at how many young people who don't show up in the polls are voting. I think it's going to be a significant win, and I think it's important that it is a significant win to finally put an end to Donald Trump and the Republican MAGA party. We need that big win. And that's why I don't want anything happening to him, because I want him to get beaten soundly, decisively, and then the Republicans going, okay, we tried. It's been 8 years and we keep failing. So maybe it's time to get off this fucking boat.
I think that one of the most important parts about him being held accountable is there's a lot of evil people in the MAGA movement that's just
Absolutely.
like they just grifting, they know better. JD Vance, he definitely knows better. But those other people who really are just minds is just gone, I think it's very important for him to go to court and have all of these myths that they think about Trump brought to light so that they can get back into reality. And then I also think as a country, we need to see that accountability happen. It's like everybody has a different reason, but each reason is important as to why we need to see Trump go fully through the justice system.
Yeah.
I am a firm believer that the only reason his cases are being delayed is because they know he's going to lose. And they're just like, okay, yeah, you're going to jail straight
Yeah.
up.
They
And I
don't
really
they don't
need
want the confusion of him being presidential candidate. Once he's done, that's why I say the world falls in on him because there's nothing protecting him at that point.
yeah, people need to see that. And all of these secrets and lies and grifting and all this crazy crap, it is very important. I think that is going to be the main thing that just breaks MAGA up, the
Right.
shambling. They're
Right.
like counts, they eat each other. When you look at it, like they're constantly, this person's beefing with that person, this one's fighting with that one. It's insane how bad crazy these people are. But I do think that core base, those hardcore MAGAs, they really do need that emperor. They need to see him without his clothes on, as gross as that is. They need to see that.
I'm curious as to what you think. When you think of the state of Ohio, it's an important state, but it's almost always red. Okay.
Yeah.
With what we've got going on in Springfield, Ohio, and how bad this is, and how bad Donald Trump is looking, and JD Vance is looking. I mean, he's a senator from the same state. How
Yeah.
bad it's looking. Is that enough for Ohio at large to say, okay, fuck this. I can't even vote for this guy. Does that open up an opportunity for Ohio to flip to blue or at least change significantly where he doesn't win as big?
Yeah, they're already calling for his seat.
Really?
Yeah. He's not going to give it up.
No.
But when he loses this election, like that's it for him. He's right out his term, and then whatever he does after that, I don't know. And honestly, I don't care.
No.
A lot of this crap that he has going on, um, I think he's going to be held accountable for it. I really, really do. The finance crimes that they're doing right now, I think that they think they're getting away with it, but it's just kind of like the DOJ is watching all of this,
Yeah.
all of it, and they're going to be held accountable for that. I do think you can see some of them trying to kind of settle down a little bit, like Marjorie
Yeah.
Taylor. She tried, but she couldn't help it. She back to her same old raggedy self again anyway. But I do think a lot of them are going to be held accountable, and a lot of crap, like you said, like if this is what we see, imagine what we don't see. And when
Yeah.
all of this stuff starts to come out, I think that's going to just be the end of MAGA, right? Well, not the end of MAGA. I do think they'll go back in their holes and cover up
Yeah.
and wait until they can come out again. But I do think all of this public racism and sexism and stuff that we see, I think that'll be like greatly, greatly diminished.
I'm interested in JD Vance because he has turned into one of the most despicable people on the
Mm.
Republican side, just below Donald Trump. He's 39 years old. By the time he gets out of office, he'll be 40, 41, maybe 42. He'll be a relatively young man. And when I think about him and what damage he's done to this country, not just in his government situation, I think of a phrase that Eddie Murphy said in one of his specials when his dad was talking to Eddie and Eddie was talking back, and Eddie said, "I'm leaving. I'm running away." And his dad said, "You go ahead. You'll be a no house walking the dog motherfucker." And that's what I look at with JD Vance, because he's going to have nothing. How do you come back from all the crazy shit he's done and try to live a life and even get a fucking, he better start writing books, but nobody's going to read them.
Mm-mm. I mean, Melania will sell more books than him.
Yeah.
And she has to do these weird ads where she's looking like the ghost from Christmas Past or something. I don't know what the heck is going on with her. I do think that in his mind, he thinks that he has friends in high places that he doesn't. JD doesn't realize that he is a tool for them right now. The people that he's aligned himself with, once they realize that Jay-Z, I keep calling him Jay-Z, JD cannot get into a position to where it's beneficial to them, he's not going to have those connections that he thinks that he has.
No.
I don't know how he's going to handle that because he's deeply insecure.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how he's going to handle that. I really, really don't. But
Did you hear what they're calling him now? Did you hear the nickname they have for him? Hillbilly Vanilli. Hillbilly Vanilli is the nickname they're using for him, and I think that's appropriate. We're getting down toward the end, and I wanted to bring this up, not because it's directly political, but I think it's going to have some political ramifications. This whole P. Diddy thing. We know he had his house raided. Now he's arrested. And because of some of the other things we talked about, we're talking about racketeering, we're talking about sex trafficking. You hear about some of the charges, the fucking egregious. They arrest him, they put him in jail. He asked for bail. The prosecution says, yeah, $50 million for bail. Judge said, fuck no, he's staying in. Then he appeals it yesterday, and they say, fuck no, you're staying in.
Mm-hmm.
This, what?
He's not Donald Trump.
No, he's not Donald Trump, and he's done. He's done. And if they're talking about racketeering, that means there's other people involved. And he did the same thing, Jeffrey Epstein. He's basically the black Jeffrey Epstein, because he took video of everything to hold over people's head. What he didn't realize is not only did he give him some leverage over these rich people, it also is a lot of fucking evidence against him. This guy is never getting out of jail again. And I'm curious as to see if it's different than Jeffrey Epstein and some of these names come to the surface.
He is the worst because he is a mixed bag of crazy. He is Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, and Bill Cosby, and R. Kelly, all rolled into one.
He really is.
Really, really is. And we knew this forever. It wasn't a secret. He didn't try to hide it. I mean, this is just what it is. He pays off, like anytime somebody is coming to like raid him, check, do any investigations, he always get a head up on that. And that's just because he pays people off. He has police officers on his payroll. He's had a couple of DAs in his payroll. The way that he was able to get away with it was like buying his way through it, period. Right. It's kind of like everybody, people who are supposed to protect us, pretty much all of them can be bought. But the only thing about that is the longer it goes on, the older that you get, the less grip that you have. And it could be a matter of just getting sloppy. Like, okay, it's been 10 years now. I don't really need to send this person a check every 6 months or whatever. It could just be a matter of just getting sloppy because you think you've gotten away with it. He was very sloppy. I mean, keeping the evidence like that, it's beyond crazy to me. It's beyond crazy.
Let me ask you a question. There's some similarities between Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, wait, I heard you ask about the arson, right?
Yeah.
That was Kid Cudi. So anytime you're in like a DV situation, it takes several attempts to leave. And so one of the times when Cassie left, she started dating Kid Cudi. They was like shacked up together. Puffy actually was like letting him know, like, hey, I'm gonna come to your house and I'm gonna set your car on fire. And Kid Cudi's like, hey, whatever, he's supposed to be this big gangster and stuff like that. Next thing you know, boom, this car blew up. I
Wow.
don't know a single person from my community that did not know that Puffy blew up his car.
Yeah.
And they do stuff like that. I've dated people like after I left my daughter's dad, and it's like, oh yeah, he crazy. I'm not going to put myself in jeopardy. Like, you cool, but you ain't that cool. And that's what Cassidy was dealing with.
Yeah.
She couldn't move on because every time she tried to move on, this type of stuff would happen to people that she dated. And then other people that she's dated, like when those guys start to come out, you'll be surprised. And nobody doubted what he did to Biggie because it wasn't a secret that how he treats his artists, how he take all of their money, everything that he's done to his artists, he gets their royalties, he doesn't pay them, all of that crap. He was doing the same thing with Biggie, but Biggie's like, hey, I'm supposed to get up out of here. And then the next thing you know,
He's
he was
dead.
murdered. So when all of that stuff starts to come out, I think people will be surprised at how bad this guy was.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this though. I was talking how I can't say he's worse than Jeffrey Epstein because he was the most vile piece of filth, but in some ways he was worse because of the violence and all this stuff. Not that he, not that Epstein wasn't violent to a certain extent. We saw what happened with Jeffrey Epstein. Do you think that because um, uh, P. Diddy is black, do you think this whole situation is handled differently than what we've seen with Trump or Epstein or anything like that? Do you think there's any, and because of where it is in New York, do you think that has some bearing on what's going to happen here?
Yeah, absolutely. Look at their raids versus looking at his raids.
Yeah.
They literally had this man, children, his maids, his staff, everybody sitting outside on the lawn in handcuffs as the helicopters was rolling over. Yeah, he don't get that special treatment. It's like, yeah, you are a mogul, you are a billionaire. However, you need to check yourself when you look in the mirror. You're different. You're not. He's gonna get treated way different than they got treated. The bond has been denied, and he's not gonna be able to do a Cosby and get out on an appeal or something. That's not gonna happen. He is
No.
getting ready to go up under the jail. Like that's it for him. He's done. I do think that what I don't want to see is what happened in R. Kelly's case. Because in R. Kelly's case, he has so not just enabling the behavior, he has so many people helping him with what he was doing. He
Yeah.
had grown men going to high school, picking up young girls like, hey, you want to come kick it with R. Kelly? Grown men doing this for him. And he is the only person sitting in prison. That's what I don't want to see.
Yeah.
Anybody who's in on it, complicit, helping him, all of that. If you go to Vlad TV, you will see like his ex-bodyguards, his ex-staff. They are on television saying, oh yeah, I seen him when he did this. Oh yeah, I was there when he beat Cassidy up under the car. Like they have been saying this in interviews. So
Right.
these are all people who've seen and witnessed this, people who helped him with that. And they're just talking about it like it's no big deal because they think that he is going to be the only one held accountable. That's what I don't want to see because it gives people permission to sit back and not do anything. But not only that, but be complicit in those type of crimes. That's just, I do think that they keep taking down the big fish, but they're only there if it wasn't for the other little fish propping them up. And those people need to get taken down too. That's the problem that I have with a lot of this stuff.
Well, I think that one of the fact that one of the indictments is racketeering,
Yeah.
that suggests conspiracy, that could suggest uh, organized crime. So because of that, that tells us there are other people on the hook. One of two
Yeah.
things are going to happen. They're going to get indicted or they're cooperating. And not
Yeah.
all of them will have the opportunity to cooperate. I think we will be seeing a lot more people being indicted because while he was the big fish, there was a lot of people uh, I was watching this video. It might have been on Charlemagne the God. It was, or somebody like that. It was a black interview type thing. And they were basically saying, if you were in a room with P. Diddy and he was naked and having sex with somebody, or you were naked, plan on going to jail because there's video of all of it. And there may be something to that.
Yeah, from my understanding, he recorded all of those FOs, what she called freak offs.
Freak
He
offs.
recorded all of that stuff. He recorded it all. And this was both men and women.
Yeah.
If you wanted to get signed to his label, they say you have those couch situations in Hollywood. It
Yeah.
was like him, but it wasn't limited to just women. It was men too that he did that to. And I do think taking him down is like treating the symptom instead of like getting to the root cause of the problem. And that's why it has to be more than just him that goes down. And I just keep seeing that over and over again, where they're not getting to like the root cause of it. They're just treating the symptom. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I don't know, Laura Loomer, like looking in a mirror and
Right.
blaming the mirror. Like, no, it's not the mirror's fault that your face looked like that. You did that to yourself.
Right.
So you need to like the root cause of this. Why was he allowed to get it away with that so long? Who did he have on his payroll? So when you look at police officers, detectives that was giving him a heads up and all of that other kind of stuff, those people need to be held accountable too. With him, I'm particularly like looking to see which law enforcement people that's brought into this, because we've known for a long time that law enforcement was in his pocket. There was like no question about that. And that's why people didn't mess with him, because they knew, oh, you don't want to go mess with him. He got the NYPD all up in his pocket. You just knew better.
There are people who are the racists are going to say, this is a racial issue. You got R. Kelly, you got Bill Cosby, you got P. Diddy, and they're going to make it a racial issue. I don't think it has anything to do with a racial issue because we got the Epsteins and the Donald Trumps in it. This is about people with too much money and too much
Yep.
power and mental disabilities or flaws. It's about money and it's about power because Harvey Weinstein's not black. Epstein's not black. Donald Trump is not black. Um, this is about people who've been given too much adulation, too much power, and they have so much money that they think they can do anything. And they get this narcissistic attitude that I'm special, I never get caught. And that's what we're dealing with Donald Trump. Donald Trump keeps committing crimes because he's always been allowed to commit crimes and get away with it. P. Diddy's the same, Bill Cosby's the same, Weinstein's the same, and the main point is they got power and people are afraid to push back. And then when it changes, the shit falls apart.
You know who else you should look at is Elon Musk.
Oh yeah.
He has attorneys on retainer specifically to settle all of his sexual harassment cases. Like, here's your NDA, here's your check. Like, that's their job. That's what they do. That is how prolific Elon Musk is with it. And people be like, oh my God, he's a tech guy. What does he have in common with Trump? They both perverts. Look what they do. Elon Musk has way too much money, way too much power, and he is way too unstable. And then when you add on the top of that, the fact that he has government contracts, access to our satellites, this man he has way too much power and control in this country. And he is one person that they should have been taking him down, and they just keep letting him go and go and go and go. They need to put a stop to him too. I'm amazed at how far Elon Musk is able to go, except for when he did make that post about Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, and he took that down. I'm like, the Secret Service come and pay him a visit? But if you can pay him a visit for that, you can pay him a visit for all of this other crap that he's doing that we know about. It's not a secret.
Yeah.
Even look what he said to Taylor Swift about impregnating her. What?
Yeah. I think that we are going to see a watershed of people being held accountable after the clutches of MAGA is torn apart. Everybody's so cautious and so afraid. Well, it's a presidential election. He's running for president. We can't do anything. I'm tired of that bullshit. Hopefully that changes because there'll be another guy like Donald Trump down the road. It could be a Democrat, it could be a Republican. It doesn't matter. They should not be able to game the system by just saying, I'm running for president or
Yeah,
being president and having immunity. I think there's going to be some issues with that decision too after it's all said and done. I think we're looking at a huge change in the culture, uh, legally, the DOJ, in government, in entertainment too. I mean, the entertainment business is falling apart. It's not, I used to work in the music business, the record
yeah,
business, so to speak, and people say, well, can you help me do this? Fucking different world. I don't know anything about this shit. It was a different world and it was a fucked up world. That's one of the reasons I quit doing it. Just in the little sampling I got, I said, this is fucked up. I do not want this. But I think we're in for some changes. I think people have finally gotten to the point where it's gotten too far and the changes have to be made.
absolute power corrupts absolutely. When these people go unchecked, the only thing that they do is they take it further and further because they are emboldened to do it. We are watching, especially with Donald Trump, we are watching real time what happens when you allow for someone to continue to get away with that. They just wreak havoc on society. And then I think when it comes to Trump, the victims are just countless. You can't even begin to count the victims that he has. It's just insane that they are allowed to get away with that. But I'm looking forward to the day when they're held accountable for it.
When you look at R. Kelly, Elon Musk, P. Diddy, Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, they are all employing the same tactics and same strategies that Donald Trump has used. Money and power. I get away with anything. I do anything. And it's the same thing that Donald Trump has done. And that is a flaw in this country. We allow these people that have money and power to get away with things. And if you're going to do that, don't try to tell me that no one's above the law, because clearly there's a lot of people above the law.
Right. There's this myth, and I don't know when when people started, buying into this, but they think that if you give them money and you give them power, then they will reach down and
Yeah.
help everybody else up. That does not happen because when you give them more money, when you give them tax breaks, when you give them power, the first thing that they do is just go buy stocks in their own company and do all this other kind of crap. Nobody else sees that. So it's a lie to think that if you hold certain people up high, then we will all be good. That's a lie. And the only thing that they do is they just wreak havoc on everybody else. And we're still sitting on the sidelines. I do think that people are starting to wake up to that, but I don't know why people bought into that in the first place. I wasn't alive when that whole thing started, but I do think people are starting to wake up to the fact that when you give people so much money, power, and influence over other people's lives specifically, nothing good can come from that. And I don't think anything good can come from that from anybody. I really, really don't think so.
It's funny. I think that attitude about the wealthy and the powerful is a human nature type of thing for some folks.
Yeah.
On a micro level, I've seen it before. I lived in a neighborhood where a guy was probably the richest guy in the neighborhood. You know, and he was a despicable motherfucker. I didn't like him
Mhm.
under any circumstance. A lot of people didn't like him, but whenever he was around, they kowtowed to him, they catered to him, wanted to laugh with him, forgave him for bullshit. For whatever reason, people want to act like they're buddies with these people who are successful or wealthy. They don't have buddies. They aren't capable of that, being narcissists. They are, like you said before, anything that you might have connected to this guy, um, you're little more than a tool. And when you're not useful anymore, you'll get thrown away. They don't give a fuck about you. With this one guy I was talking about, he asked
Mhm.
me to do him a favor one time. It was a little favor, and and uh, and I did it because it wasn't really a favor for him. It was a favor that involved kids at the school, so I did it. It was no big deal. And after that, he was always really friendly to me. He wasn't the dick he was to everybody else. And that just
Mm.
pissed me off more. I said, because you're acting fakey, but I want you to know I still don't care about you. I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to hang out with you. And that confused him. But I knew
Yeah,
who he was based on my experiences with people of similar personalities. These people know how to play the game and they use people all the time. All these people we've been talking about, they do nothing but use and throw away people. And it's ironic that, when you talk about Cassie,
yeah,
all the horrible things he did to her, she's the one that brought him down. And it was
yeah.
because of his own arrogance. She
Hmm.
sued him. He could have settled that quietly, but he thought he was too tough, too powerful. Cassie has this lawsuit. I believe she won the lawsuit. And then all of a sudden, the shitstorm. He could have covered this up if he was just smart and not as arrogant as he was. But
Yeah,
they do it to themselves every fucking time. They,
yeah. Look at Jean Carroll. Here she
yeah,
go with you. Look at Weinstein and all his victims. It's just kind of like for me to just watch it come full circle when the women are the ones that take them down.
yeah.
And they really did think that they can get away with this stuff forever. And 9 times out of 10, they don't get away with it forever. They don't.
Well, you talk about keeping people in check, and I'm not anything like those people. I'm not rich. I'm not powerful. I don't have a propensity to abuse people. But if I step out of line, grandma puts me in check. Grandma will
And
straighten grandpa out in an instant. And it doesn't even have to be anything big. It could be tiny. Immediately straightened out. So that's why I've been able to keep my nose clean so long, being a
yeah.
guy of this much power. Fuck. No.
And
But
those people, they don't have that.
no, they
Trump doesn't
don't.
have around him telling him the truth. Puffy just has his hanger-ons. Like they're all like that. Even Elon Musk, like every time he tells a joke, everybody in the room laughs. But when he's giving an interview, it's like crickets. Yeah, those people are paid to laugh. How are you that disconnected? Like, and what planet does Elon Musk think he's funny? I didn't even think he understood jokes, let alone told them.
Elon's
They,
weird,
yeah,
like Vance. He's weird. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. And he's not as smart as he thinks he is because he does dumb shit constantly.
he's
I w-
so. That's another thing that gets so detached from reality. Like they are so far removed away from average people that it's insane. Like even it's weird to hear Trump talk about the cost of groceries because he's never been to a grocery store. And then when he does try to talk about groceries, they're like propped up behind him in front of his like mansion or whatever. It's like how out of you're complaining about the cost of bacon as you stand in front of a mansion. That's not nobody's relating to that. It looks like a show because that's what it is. And
well,
none of these people are being grounded, regardless of what that Huckabee Sanders said. She's not grounded either.
well,
She's really not.
I will say this too. Him saying that nobody can afford bacon anymore, just to spite him. Tonight, my wife and I went out to a restaurant. I got a
Mhm.
BLT, extra motherfucking bacon. And you know what? It wasn't that expensive. I don't
Did you
go to
break the
expensive places out. I just had one more thing I wanted to mention and see what you think about this, and then we got to get going because you got to get to bed. You got more shit to do. Laura Loomer, she was all up in the news. The ridiculous, crazy shit and how she's connected to Donald Trump. Last 4 days, not one word from Laura Loomer. Her name doesn't even come up. What do you think happened there?
What I don't think nothing happened.
Really?
I think that Trump has told her, hey, we have to kind of like quiet it down for a little while. I don't think that, I think it's a situation where I'll meet you at Mar-a-Lago, but you can't ride on the plane. You get to go to the back door type of thing. I
Yeah.
really do think nothing's happened. I just think that they're being more discreet about what's going on between the two of them. I was watching a podcast. I don't know how true this is, but I'm going to say it.
Go ahead.
A friend of hers came out and said that they are having an affair. This is so, I do not want to repeat this.
Oh,
I
repeat
don't
it. Repeat
want
it.
to repeat
This
this.
is alleged. This is alleged. This isn't
I don't want to
necessarily
repeat it.
verified.
I
Just
don't
say
want to
it.
repeat it, but I'm gonna say it. But it's just so weird and I'm so embarrassed saying it. Oh, God. I'm going to hell. Okay, so the friend came out and said that they are having an affair.
Okay.
And there was all these rumors, like these little showing her belly, like, oh, she got a little bump, is she pregnant by Trump, whatever, right? And so he
No.
was saying that she's not pregnant by Trump. And the reason that he knows that is because Laura Loomer told him that these are the best blowjobs Trump has ever gotten in his life. And now that's the only type of sex that he wants to have. I told you I didn't want to say it, but you told me to say it, so I said it. And so
Well,
the friend is saying that that's why he doesn't think she's pregnant, is because now that's all Trump wants to do. He doesn't want to do it regular.
well, he's
So
78 years old. He probably can't. No, seriously. I mean, there's only so much Viagra in the world, and he's too busy taking Adderall. He can't mix those two fucking things. But last thing I will say is the thing that interests me about this, having had some experience with it, and I know you've had some experience. She gives some kind of crazy ex vibe, you know. If things
yeah.
go south, who knows what the fuck she's gonna say?
She is about as restrained as Ann Coulter could be.
Yeah.
And Ann Coulter is on record saying, I was surprised when I met Donald Trump at how absolutely stupid he is. She's on record saying that. Matter of fact, not record. You can see, just Google it. She is on tape saying that. She was surprised at how stupid he was, right?
Yeah.
She's also the one that says, hey, shut the F up, because the Democrats, like, she has no way of controlling herself. Laura Loomer is the same type of person. So even though I think right now she's getting that backdoor treatment, I do think that Trump has to walk that rope,
Yeah.
because the moment he crosses her, she's gonna come out and she's not gonna have any, she's not gonna be able to hold back. If we think what she did to Margie Taylor Greene and Lindsey Graham on social media was bad, wait till she starts dragging Trump. It's gonna be a whole different level. So I do think that he
Especially if
should.
he loses.
Oh
If he
yeah.
loses, oh, it's going to get ugly.
One thing I will say about Laura Loomer and the whole Trump situation, I feel frustrated that people are saying we need to keep her away from Trump. She's a bad influence on Trump. He doesn't need to be hanging around Laura Loomer. Trump isn't an adult. He is a 78-year-old senior citizen running to be the president of the United States, the front runner for the Republican Party. He can't make smart decisions on who he should and shouldn't hang around with. I don't understand, and I'm not sticking up for this helper because I don't like her. I don't understand why she is being blamed for Donald Trump's poor decision making.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming her for that. I'm just saying she's a vile, disgusting person, and she shouldn't have any influence in politics in America at all. But I'm not going to blame her because Trump decides that that's who he wants to associate himself with, because Trump decides that's the person he wants to put on his private jet with, that's the person he wants to take to a 9/11 memorial. I'm not blaming her for Trump's decisions, and I really do wish people would blame him for that and stop blaming her for his poor choices,
Well,
because he could dodge her and he didn't have to deal with her. Like right now, we already know that there's a hit on him from another country. We
yeah.
know that. If he can dodge them, he can dodge this crazy heifer. He just don't want to.
Well, and the thing I always find funny is they always say, is JD dragging him down? JD Vance dragging him down? Is Laura Loomer going to hurt him? This motherfucker's got 34 felony convictions. He's been found liable of sexual assault. He's stolen classified documents and disseminated it to our adversarial countries. He's incited an insurrection. He stole money. He's lied continuously. You don't need JD Vance and Laura
Right.
Loomer to drag him down. It's Donald Trump who's dragging him down.
Yeah, but Republicans are not going to say that. But
No.
it's irritating to me that, even left leaning left leaning people, they say the same thing. Oh, Laura Loomer doesn't need to be around him. He needs to get away from her. They don't blame Trump for his, like, he is always rated on this outrageous curve. Like, if you have somebody like that who can't make decisions for himself, He doesn't need to be anywhere near a position of power. It's insane that they blame her for that. That's the one thing I don't blame her for. It's
Yeah.
like it's not your fault that he keep coming back for more, but you know.
Well, the thing about it is for them to blame Laura Loomer to bring Donald Trump down, that's like taking a serial killer and taking him down with a speeding ticket.
Right.
It's fucking ridiculous.
And she's on camera eating dog food. And he noticed. He know that. He knows that. Is this the person you really want to hang around with? She made
Yeah.
it a point to eat the dog food because she wanted to say America's dog food tastes better than Chinese dog food. The heifer is just really crazy. She really is crazy. But it's not her fault that Trump hangs around her. It's
No.
not her fault that he chooses to associate with somebody that looks like Jigsaw and eats dog food. It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty ridiculous.
Girl.
Well, we're going to
I
wrap
do
things
have
up.
one, I have one thing before I forget.
You
Because
always have
people,
one thing. Go ahead.
they do ask how they could donate to the agency that I work for,
Yeah.
National Abortion Federation. Jesse Dollemore, I don't know if you know who he is,
Mm-hmm.
but if you go to his videos, next to his videos, there's in green it says fundraiser, and that's who. If you wanted to donate, just go to his video, click on the donate button. I can attest. Last year, him and his wife, they raised $15,000. Every single penny came to us. Every single penny. This
Wow.
year they moved it to 20,000, and I think earlier today he was like at 18,000 and something. And there's like, I think 10 days left. So
Okay.
he's going to meet the goal. If you want to, you can, but you don't have to. But I can vouch that every single penny, it went to us last year. I have no doubt that it'll go to us this year. And then he also has like a little blurb that he states before each video where you can like listen to him, and he gives pretty much the breakdown that I give, like helping them travel and all that stuff. He really does give that breakdown. So anybody asking, that's a good place if you don't want to go to the website.
Perfect. Perfect. All right, old soul. Thank you very much. How long are you going to be in PA?
I'm gonna leave next week, but I did tell you before I came on that my honey is coming to visit me,
Yeah.
and that's gonna make me feel better. I'm gonna feel better. I think his girls might learn some stuff. They have when they have the ladies that's gonna be watching after them for a few days, but they'll be all right.
I told old soul off the air. I said, you know, my granddaughter's a little feisty, and somebody was wondering, what if she gets to be a 15, 16 and she gets too feisty? I said, don't worry about it. I'm going to call old soul. I'm going to have her tell me how much money we need, and I'm going to send my granddaughter down to old soul for a month, and we'll straighten that shit out. Hopefully we don't have to do that, but I
You
have
might want to
options.
consult with the wild child first. You know, I can't say nothing because when I'm not around, from what I hear, it's like people, oh my gosh, she talks about you all the time. So she's saying good things. So yeah,
Well,
that's
that's
good.
good. Well, yeah, you straightened her out, and now she's on the right track, and that's good. Well, old soul, thank you for coming on. We'll talk again next week, and I'll no doubt get random text of expressing your anger or clips or something, and I appreciate it because
Or giving you a heads up. Sometimes when I see stuff, I'm like, oh my God, Booba got to see this.
and I appreciate that because I don't catch everything, and to have help from you is very valuable. Now, those of you folks that are listening, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.